If crossing a border in an RV seems stressful to you, then hang tight. We've got you covered. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. My family of four's base camp is located in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, and our RV adventures radiate out from there. Please grab a mug of coffee and join us as we discuss RVing around the American West. From sweet camping spots, gear and equipment, to tips and tricks, we've got you covered. We are RV Out West. The time has come, and we are so thrilled to share that this summer we are towing the trailer up to the Canadian Rockies to go visit Banff and Jasper National Parks in Alberta, Canada. This has been a bucket list destination for me ever since I heard stories from my late grandmother about a trip that she and my grandfather took up there in the 90s. Joining us today is Steve, a Canadian Border Patrol agent. He and I discuss all the details and best practices an RVer needs to know when looking to cross the border into Canada. There are a ton of links and resources in the show notes for this episode over on rvoutwest.com, so please be sure to head over there for even more information. Steve, thank you for taking the time to chat with us here on RV Out West.
Hey, do you know what? I'm more than happy to do that. I truly, from my heart, I am. Born and raised in Western Canada here, outdoors all the way. Lots of camping. In a former life, I used to be a park ranger. So,
At which park?
in all the Alberta parks up here, up and around Edmonton, where I was predominantly stationed. Then a little bit by a place called Brooks, Alberta, and that's kind of how I cut my teeth out of university a little bit. And most amazing job ever being a park ranger, right? So then I got into the federal system. I got into this career, obviously been there for 31 years. So more than happy to speak with you, and hopefully we can give your viewers some really good information.
That's my hope. Can you please define kind of the purpose?
Well, CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency, our purpose along the border is we facilitate the flow of people and goods into and out of Canada. We look to facilitate a quick, timely movement of people and goods into Canada who comply with our legislation. But at the same time, we look to interdict those people and those goods that don't comply with our legislation. So essentially, those that are breaking the law, we're looking for them, and those that are compliant with the law and have a legitimate purpose for coming to Canada, we want to process you and get you through the border as quickly as possible without delay. That's what we do.
When driving across the border without an RV, the standard process and documentation needed for both adults and minors is what?
It's all the same. Whether you're in a car or you're in an RV, the requirements for entering into Canada are all the same. You're going to be asked a series of questions about who you are, who the people are in the vehicle, and we're going to ask you a bunch of questions about what's in your vehicle, as well as a couple of questions about your intended purpose for coming to Canada. Whether you're in a car or in an RV, you're going to go through the same process because we have the same questions. So it's really not about what you're driving. It's more about who's in the vehicle, what's your purpose coming to Canada, what's your citizenship, and we have a list of questions about the different kinds of goods that we're concerned about that you might have in your vehicle. We just want you to tell us about it.
I know in Washington State, we have a standard driver's license, and now we have the enhanced driver's license, which allows us to enter Canada without the need of a passport as long as we come by land crossing or by, like, if I take a ferry. And with the children, though, is it just a birth certificate that's needed if they're accompanied with their parents?
It's a really good question. Children, obviously, for everyone, we all share the same concerns. Safe passage for children and making sure nothing untoward happens to kids in our societies. In order for us to look after that, to ensure we know who's coming in and that the child is with the right person and that they're safe, we look first and foremost, if they're of age, we will ask everyone for a passport. Obviously, some kids don't have passports. We'll then be asking the parents for some kind of ID and some kind of confirming information about their legal right to be with the child or for the child to be with them and to be traveling across the border. So often we'll ask for custody papers if there's been such a thing. We will ask for birth certificates. We will look to see, do you have a letter from another parent explaining what the purpose of the trip is? And you're able to provide us with contact information such as a phone number. So if we have questions, we can get a hold of that other parent. Some cases we'll talk to the child too, ask them some questions like, do you know where you're going and who you're with and that sort of thing. And a lot of that's to put the child at ease as well.
Okay. So passports really do just make the whole process that much simpler.
Absolutely.
What is it that I can and can't bring that are inside the vehicle? So I have everything ready to go and present efficiently. And what can you tell me about that?
Well, you've hit it on the head when you say no before you go, have all of your stuff arranged. And I'll go through a little bit of what you can expect when you get to the border.
Okay,
So
great. Thank you.
one of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to pull up, and we're going to want to see those passports. So if you have those handy and ready, we're going to want to talk to everyone in the vehicle. So get everyone sort of up to the front of the vehicle, up by the driver's window, so that we can see everyone and put our questions to them as well. We're going to ask to see the passport. So you'll end up rolling down your window and handing those out. And we'll probably get you to shut your vehicle off so we can hear you. And then we're going to ask everyone these questions. And we're going to say, what's your citizenship? Where do you live? What's your purpose for coming to Canada? Very easy questions, very free flowing. We just want to know. Of course, we don't have any idea of who's in the vehicle, and this is our way of learning about who you are. Once we establish that you're most likely coming up for a vacation or to visit, and that your citizenship is likely United States, and we see your passports, you'll see the officer scan those and put those into the system, and that's fine. That's what we do with everyone. And then we're going to ask you a series of questions about what's in your vehicle. We just want straightforward, honest answers. And that's the biggest thing. And if the answer is, I don't know, that's okay. We'll sort that out. But one of the first things we're going to say is, do you have anything in your vehicle that you're going to leave behind, give away, or sell? A lot of times people are bringing up gifts or something like that. We just need to know what you're bringing in if it's going to stay behind in Canada. The next questions that we're going to ask is, do you have any alcohol in the vehicle? And if so, how much? Do you have any tobacco or tobacco products in the vehicle? And if so, how much? And again, we just want an honest answer about how much you're bringing in. There are certain limits, but you're allowed to have a certain amount of alcohol and tobacco when you come in.
Can you share what those limits are?
Well, what you'll find is we have a general provision for bringing something in duty and tax free. So without us charging you duties and taxes. That's roughly about 40 ounces of alcohol. You'll find carton of cigarettes is usually pretty standard fare that way as well. 24 beer, 1.15 liters of wine. Now those are without taxes. Now every province in Canada also sets a limit to how much you can bring above. Anything above the basic exemption amounts, and you can find those exemption amounts listed on our website. You may be subject to duties and taxes to bring it in.
Okay.
The biggest thing to remember is tell us that it's there. Tell us how much you have. We'll sort out the rest. So that's the beginning of our question. So we've asked you, are you bringing anything up to leave behind or give away or sell? We've asked you alcohol and tobacco. We'll ask you if you have any firearms in the vehicle. Do you have any handguns, any long guns? Do you have any large capacity magazines for firearms? Do you have any mace, tear gas, or pepper spray?
Ooh, what about bear spray? Because I might have bear spray. What's the deal with that?
Bear spray can be brought into Canada. First and foremost, you have to tell us it's in the vehicle.
Okay.
Bear spray is very specifically designed. It's designed exclusively for the use against animals, and it'll say that on the label. And the kind of canisters that you see for bear spray are very distinct. So when you tell us about it, we'll probably ask to see it, and we'll make a determination. In a lot of cases, when people have bear spray, it's the legitimate kind of bear spray that we can bring in. And we'll also want to match that to your intended purpose where you're going to Canada. And usually it's not too much of a problem, but we may have some questions about it. And please bear with us because we're going to ask you some stuff. We may ask to see it. And, most people will hold it up for us and show us what it is or ask you to park. And so we can send an officer out there to take a look at it. And again, it all starts with just tell us honestly what's in your vehicle and we'll go from there. We'll work with you on that.
Okay.
So then we get into knives, and certain knives can't come into Canada. Switchblade knives, spring knives, the centrifugal knives that you flip open with your wrist. And then we'll ask you, do you have any other kinds of weapons at all? And you can see the theme in that set of questions is we're looking for things that people use as weapons. And it's a concern for us because we don't allow that kind of stuff into Canada. The firearms, we recognize that some people carry firearms inside their vehicles. And again, we want you to tell us that it's there. No surprises. It all begins with telling us the truth and let us know it's there. Most firearms do not aren't allowed to be brought into Canada. Some people do come up for hunting or shooting purposes, like they're going to a shooting event or a competition, in which case we have a process for that. And we will take a look at what you're bringing in and make a determination if you qualify to bring it in. And again, most people are very compliant and very forthright, and it's a bit of a delay because we've got to fill out some paperwork for you and we can get you in. But as a general rule, most like handguns aren't permitted. They're usually restricted or prohibited upon entry, so they can't be brought in. And unless you have an intended purpose for having the firearm, you may not be allowed to bring it in either, because it has to be consistent with your trip and consistent with our law. So you'll get some questions on that. We also have a question that will ask you, do you have any cannabis or cannabis products inside your vehicle that you're trying to bring into Canada? So while cannabis is available in Canada from authorized vendors, you're not allowed to bring it across the border. You're not allowed to take it into Canada. You're not allowed to take it out of Canada. So if there's any cannabis products, you have to tell us about it. And again, like everything else, failure to tell us about it is what gets you into trouble. And we want to know what's coming in. Like I said, we control that. So let us know. It's one of the questions that you can expect. And then we'll also have a question for you that says, do you have any cash or currency or monetary instruments equal to or greater than $10,000 Canadian? Because we control the amount of money that comes in like that. And again, we need to know, and it all starts with declaring it to us so that we can ask you some questions, possibly complete some paperwork. That's what we're looking at. If you're traveling with a pet, we may ask to see, do you have the health papers for the pet? In the case of dogs, or the rabies vaccination certificate.
Is that, by the way, because I am planning to bring our puppy, our dog across with us on our travels. So, um, is it just a rabies documentation that you need, or is it a full health vaccination records, or what kind of things would you be looking for pets?
Well, generally speaking, we're just going to be asking for the rabies vaccination certificate. And I believe, if I test my memory, last time I had a dog, can't get a rabies shot for under 6 months. So there might be an issue there because the animal normally won't be vaccinated. So you won't have a rabies vaccination certificate. Sometimes a lot of what we're looking for or what our questions spin on is what we see. If the dog looks unhealthy or if the animal looks unhealthy, we may have a bunch of additional questions in which we want to see some confirmation on. That kind of information is on our partner agency, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, on their website. Health of Animals, they'll list the requirements there as well.
Real quick about bringing food and produce across, what is there any considerations or things that need to be made about, food and produce?
The best source to find that in is, again, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Their website, they'll have a list of things. And it will also vary depending on which province that you're entering into. But generally speaking, any traveler can go there and look things up on their website and confirm if there's any restrictions in place or what those restrictions might be, and then just abide by that list accordingly. It's usually pretty well laid out.
Is that a seasonal list, or, based on kind of what produce might be in season, or is it just a straight, this is 365 days a year?
Well, it's not my agency, so I can't really
Okay.
answer to that. My experience has been, like anything else, certain things happen in the world that cause concerns to rise up and sometimes go away. And this is an agency that's there to help protect Canada. So if a concern develops, they will address that concern with.
Yeah. So I'll check it 1 week before travel.
Yeah.
Just a quick double check. Yeah. Okay. Let me ask you one other question. With regards to additional paperwork, should I have readily available, whether it be the proof of registration of my tow vehicle and my RV, as well as proof of insurance, or is that just kind of keep that in the glove box, or is that something I should have kind of at the ready to be able to turn over to an officer?
Well, registration and insurance fall under the authority of the province and not the federal government. So we're not so concerned about those federal or the provincial requirements. We're going to focus on the federal requirements. And the federal requirements for us is, yes, we do want to make sure that you are the authorized owner of whatever you're in possession of and you're bringing it in. Those kind of documents might help us to establish that along with your verbal declaration. But for the most part, we're not asking to see insurance because of an insurance requirement. That isn't us. That's the province. So if you were in Canada and a police officer pulled you over, for sure they'd want to see those kind of documents. But at the border coming in, no, generally not. That's not what we want to see. We may ask to see your registration to see proof of the ownership to make sure that you're lawful possession of the goods that you're bringing in, kind of thing. But that's just an indicator for us. We really want to figure out who you are. We look at your passport and then ask you a bunch of questions. That's kind of how we start our process.
Well, that seems pretty straightforward. Let's get to some fun stuff now. Now that I know you're a former park ranger, you got a fun hike recommendation up there near Banff and Jasper? I mean,
Are you headed into Banff and Jasper?
yes, I'm knocking off a bucket list trip this summer and I'm thrilled.
Well, our friends at Parks Canada do a wonderful job in going to their visitor center and setting you up for really good hikes and places to see. When you pull into the parks, they'll hand you a bunch of information, and their people are wonderful to deal with in terms of getting ideas. Some of the things that are very unique to see when you enter into Banff is to take a trip up to the top of Sulphur Mountain on a gondola to see Lake Minnewanka, to go to Johnson's Canyon. If you get up to Jasper, Edith Cavell Glaciers, to the top of Whistler's Mountain on a gondola, go see some of the lakes in the area that are just beautiful. But truly, the people you want to talk to, the experts, go see our friends at the tourist centers there in Parks Canada. They're wonderful.
Fair enough. I just wanted to get your own personal take.
Yeah, you bet.
Any tips and tricks, suggestions on best times to cross the border or times to avoid? Like Friday at 5 o'clock is a terrible time to go, or whatever it might be. Like,
Do you know what? It's a really good thing to look into. We post our border wait times online, so you can go online and look to see. Generally speaking, earlier in the day, the shorter the lineup, or later in the day, shorter the lineup. Just kind of like everything else in society, peak times between 8 and 4, that's when we see most people arriving, and that's when you can expect the greatest lineups.
well, I don't have any additional questions. Is there anything that I didn't ask that we didn't cover that you think is important that we should also discuss?
Well, I would say as you're getting prepared to come to Canada, don't hesitate to look at our websites. Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA, we have really good websites, lots of information there. If you look at different parts of the website, you'll also see that there's contact phone numbers where you can go to our what we call our biz line and look to ask questions and get answers. What we want is to provide you with all the answers ahead of time, no surprises, know before you go, answer the questions honestly when you get here. It's really our goal to facilitate your movement through the border point into Canada and enjoy your time here.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day again. I'm super grateful. So thank you.
Oh, more than welcome. I was very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I want to remind you that the first question of the month is live. Please visit rvoutwest.com and click on the link question to share with us about one of your memorable road trips. You will only have 90 seconds, so be succinct, but please share. I look forward to hearing about your road trips and highlighting them on the show. Again, please visit rvoutwest.com and click on the link question up in the menu. Thank you again for listening to RV Out West. I sincerely appreciate it. I'm asking you to do two things for me. Please give RV Out West a follow on Facebook and Instagram, and please share with your RVing friends and family about this podcast. I sure would appreciate it. Next Monday's Pit Stop episode, we continue sharing more information about our upcoming Canadian trip. The Canadian Parks is a very different booking site than, say, booking for a state park or a federal campground here in the United States. So we are going to share the info from what we have learned in the process of making this dream trip a reality. There's a ton of great info, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. So if you're planning to head north for a Canadian camping trip, this is going to be a great episode for you. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again next week. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I sure would appreciate it if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing us the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.